realize this moment may not be the most convenient for a heart-to-heart.
Hello everyone. Just to start off, this is my first video and I'm a nobody. I'm not a Valve associate, I'm not a frequent gamer, and I'm also not a game programmer nor a journalist. I'm not even a native English-speaking person, so sorry for any mishaps, by the way. I'm just a Half-Life fan who picked up every tiny piece of news about Half-Life 3 in the past 10 years, and like most of you, I can't wait until it gets released and I get to play it. I have noticed that already a few years back, Half-Life 3 has become a joke in online communities, magazines, and blogs, while there is one side eagerly waiting for Valve to give them, well, actually anything that refers to Half-Life 3. Others have already given up hope and prefer to make fun of it. What I would like to do with this video is to interpret the messages and signs, or lack thereof, that have been out so far. I also want to bring the concept of a Half-Life 3 in context with the technical developments of the past years and the state of now. But in order to understand the full picture, I guess we have to make a quick tour to the past. When Half-Life 1 was released in 1998, it basically didn't only set the bar higher for video gaming, it also ushered in a new era of first-person shooters. The concept of actually moving the story forward as you move forward was not necessarily new, but nobody had done it as good and convincing until then. It was the whole package of a great story, great gameplay, and stunning graphics. Some of you who dug into this particular part of history know that Valve has halted programming in the middle of production and started anew as they thought that their product just wasn't good enough. Though some of you also remember what Gabe Newell said to his employees when he came to the sequel.
You don't have to worry about how long it's going to take, you don't have to worry about how much money you're going to spend. The only thing you have to worry about is making it the best game of all time.
Valve was already at a point that other studios could only dream of. They were independent. Valve didn't care if the schedules weren't met. They didn't have shareholders or parent companies knocking their doors down because they couldn't finish in time. Most of the employees were, and still are, gamers, and all they care about was making a great product. When Half-Life 2 was finally announced in 2003, Valve made a mistake that they regret till today. They informed the public about the current state of development and teased bits and pieces of a game that was far from being finished at that point. Some people became so impatient that one particular fan stole the source code and shared it online. A huge problem for a company that basically depends on its signature product. The final release of Half-Life 2 came with a bitter aftertaste for fans. Valve now wanted to protect itself from piracy, and Half-Life 2 could only be launched via Steam, Valve's new online platform. Today we know that Steam was a blessing and curse for gaming in general from now on. Good or bad, we can't ignore that it is now an integral part of online and offline gaming. The overwhelming success of Half-Life 2 made Valve think about their fans again. They didn't want them to wait another 6 years until they can pick up where Gordon left off. This is the point where it gets messy, because Valve experienced something which they haven't come across before in that matter: pressure. And let's face it, episode 1 and 2 were great. You devoured every tiny bit. But after those few hours of gameplay, you felt a little empty. It just felt incomplete and not right to only have an excerpt of a journey that should have been a much more intense experience. Valve realized this and pulled the emergency brake. Unfortunately, at the most unopportune moment, with the meanest cliffhanger in gaming history. So far, these are all facts. But what about Half-Life 2 Episode 3, or, as now commonly said, Half-Life 3. Since there is next to no information from the developer itself, we have to evaluate what happened since Half-Life 2 and what the current state of gaming is. Right after Half-Life 1, fans created the world-famous mod Counter-Strike. The actual idea was very simple: connect players and let them compete against each other online. Whoever gets shot is out, round after round. Valve was lucky to be one of the first companies to actually see the potential of first-person shooter online gaming, and they didn't ignore it. In fact, they expanded the concept, and the mod became one of the most ever played online games ever until now, and spawned leagues and armies of players who compete against each other in esport events. Valve listens to its fans. Keep that in mind for later. When Portal came along, everybody was blown away just by the concept of playing a first-person shooter where there is actually nothing to shoot. For Part 2, they even went further and adapted their knowledge of multiplayer gaming. The result was as experimental as it was revolutionizing. Finally, another fact. Valve told the public that they were now more interested in making multiplayer games such as Left 4 Dead series and Dota 2. Furthermore, they're also very busy further developing Steam. Does this mean Half-Life 3 is dead? Okay, now here we need to bring together our knowledge with reason and logic. What has happened in the meantime? Everything that made Half-Life 2 exciting and unique has since been excessively copied by major studios with products like Call of Duty, Far Cry, Battlefield, etc. The graphics have become better, the effects, the models, moving cycles. In fact, if Half-Life had continued in its current shape, it would have perished among these high-budget shooters that only care for graphics and wow effects. Valve knows that, and I guess that's one of the reasons why further development was temporarily halted. The past years were also filled with hints of the future. Computers are getting faster each year. Internet connections became faster. Multiplayer gaming is booming. The next logical step is to take the whole gaming experience to a new level. And here we are. VR is just a step away from becoming exciting reality. So what do you do when you're a company with a beloved signature product, lots of money in the bank, and the will to innovate? I would say, you do it. Make no mistake, Valve would be stupid to ignore these developments and everything around it. They would have to come to hate Half-Life and abandon it until everyone has forgotten about it. A few years back, Gabe and his company got involved in virtual reality. In fact, they moved to the forefront of developing technologies, engines, and devices to enter this new world. But they also realized that moving around in new spaces requires new devices to maneuver effectively. So they came up with the Steam machines and also added the new controller. At the time of this video, some Steam machines are already out, and I expect Valve to develop this concept even further. Now, let's turn to the signs we have been given so far, apart from the technical developments I have just mentioned earlier. Furthermore, let's try to see things from Valve's perspective. If you had the best gaming franchise in first-person shooter history in your hands, you have made the experiences you have, and you witnessed the signs of time, what would you do? Let's try to understand what Valve has done right after they realized that the episode concept is going nowhere. They withdrew everything that could raise anticipation or make a false impression of what Half-Life 3 could be like. Why? Because just like during Half-Life 1, they realized that they are just not satisfied with their product anymore. Now all these new opportunities are flooding in. What do? You test. That's what Valve has been doing extensively. Testing. They tested Oculus Rift to the very core. What content were they using? Half-Life 2. They were testing new designs of game controllers. With Half-Life 2. They were testing their Steam machines with more resource-hungry apps, obviously. But also mostly shooters. Now, what does that mean? To me, it means they are preparing for something 3D to come along. And then we have the media. Oh dear media, how have you failed us? Gabe Newell knows that the media can be a producer's worst enemy. They command their own timing of things, stirring up readers with facts that are neither true nor well-researched, and they make a mockery of products if it doesn't go their way. And fans and readers usually gladly jump on that train, being happy about every tiny bit of information, even if it's next to nothing. In an interview a few years back, Gabe Newell said,
Half-Life 2 Episode 3, where is it?
Only underlining their awareness of being late. And let's keep that in mind because some people out there still believe Valve has forsaken games and totally switched to services. This is particularly the way that the media likes to put it, but in my opinion, they're totally wrong. Valve is a very democratic company where employees can basically work on whatever they want to. Let's not forget, it's an enterprise, and kids have to be fed and bills to be paid, so of course making money has a certain priority. That makes the Half-Life 3 subject even more interesting. Today, Valve has made a multiple of the revenues of their game sales, and Steam has become a centerpiece of today's gaming. Let's just cut this short. In my opinion, a few people inside Valve are working on something that might become Half-Life 3, and I believe that this is going on since the release of Episode 2. But there are so many new ideas and technologies to explore that it's extremely hard, for example, to implement a linear story structure like Half-Life into, say, a multiplayer game. Then there is the VR aspect, with a ton of new possibilities. Wow, so many things to discover and work with. The new controller, the new Steam machines, the new engine, and then there's Portal. I believe that this manageable team of programmers, writers, and artists have never stopped working on bringing these technologies together. Apparently, some programmers and former Valve employees stated that there are only bits and pieces. I believe them. I think there truly are bits and pieces right now, and the team is working on the big breakthrough, something to convince the rest of Valve that it's now worth investing in. Other insiders have said Half-Life 3 will be a multiplayer game. I believe them. In fact, that's kind of logical to me. When Gabe Newell says he loves the characters of his products as much as the fans do, I also believe him. In fact, from all that I've heard and read so far, Valve has never lied about Half-Life 3. But let's be honest. What can you say about something that isn't even taken real shape yet? How can you estimate a release if you're sitting on a bunch of bits and pieces with no glue to put them together with? Would you make the same mistakes from the past again? Would you rather disappoint your fans or spice them up with information that is of no use or value? Would you respond if people start mocking you for something that they actually love? Would you speed up development to throw something out just to shut people up? No. Like I said before, Valve is an independent company founded by gamers. They develop products for gamers, and they respect and love their fans and users, including their opinions. They're also fully aware of the love of their fans for the Half-Life franchise, and rather than just give them something, they want to give them the best they can achieve. But at this point, there simply isn't anything to say. The only thing that Valve could say, but actually they have said it a few times in other words already, is that they are working on Half-Life 3, because some people in that company really are. Half-Life 3 is an extremely difficult endeavor. How do you set the bar when your competitors copied everything that made your original product so great? How do you integrate all these new technologies into gameplay, handling, storytelling, or even markets? There are so many challenges to make this happen that even I don't want to be in Valve right now to sort these things out. Let's finish this. Valve wants to make Half-Life 3, no doubt. Why would they tie the whole Portal storyline even closer to Half-Life and lay clever Easter eggs instead of just moving away, story-wise? Why would Gabe forge a crowbar and underline that?
These things, they take time.
I know he was supporting something else, but come on. Why can't he just say, nope, well, Half-Life 3 is not happening, so stop whining? They really want to see it happen, but at this point, there are many problems and challenges to be solved before we can actually talk about a game. So, there will eventually be a Half-Life 3, but until then, please stop reading blogs, opinions, or media articles unless they can prove their sources. Stop pressuring Valve, as they know all too well where they're at and what there is to do.